Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Free Speech Forward podcast. I'm your co host, Chris Bush, and co founder of our sponsoring organization, 1776 Forward. We produce this podcast in co sponsorship with the Institute for Liberal Values. And I'm delighted today to welcome Yukong Mike Zhao. He goes by Mike. Hi, Mike. Thanks for joining us today.
Hi, thank you for having me, Chris.
It's quite an honor and a pleasure. Mike has an amazing background, and I'm going to give you a little bit about that before we turn it over to him and hear his story. But for those who are unfamiliar with Mike, Mike Zhao is the founding president of the Asian American Coalition for Education, AACE. Since 2015, AACE has mobilized Asian communities to support Students for Fair Admissions lawsuits against Harvard and UNC. Their collective efforts culminated in the landmark Supreme Court rulings in June 2023, which banned affirmative action in college admissions. So that was obviously a huge event in American society, and Mike was pivotal to those efforts. As a prolific author and survivor of China's Cultural Revolution, Mike Zhao has published a book and numerous columns advocating against the radical liberal agenda. So with that, Mike, I'll turn it over to you. Why don't you, we always like to start off by hearing kind of your origin story, so to speak, but in particular, how it relates to fighting for free speech. So how did you come to being an advocate and speaker for free speech?
Yeah, basically, I grew up in communist China, where, freedom of speech does not exist, right? But, after the Cultural Revolution, we started to learn many outspoken Chinese were politically persecuted because some was even be murdered because of freedom of speech, right? So I started to realize importance of this freedom of speech. And after I, came to America in 1992, in the first 20 years, I realized, I observed the great benefits of freedom of speech, right? So what really triggered me was in 2019, it was sparked by the rise of political correctness and censorship in America. On July 23rd, 2019, I learned that Cassie Drew, a former Orlando resident, was stripped of her Miss Michigan 2019 title for expressing truthful but politically incorrect viewpoints. That prompted me to write a column for Orlando Sentinel titled "Please Stop Politicizing Daily American Life,"
Mm.
marking my first, starting the journey to defend the freedom of speech. 3 years later, as you introduced, I published a book called Critical Race Theory and Woke Culture,
Mm.
America's Dangerous Repeat of Chinese Cultural Revolution. I dedicated one chapter, comparing how the radical left used censorship and cancel culture to silence oppositions and to the tactics employed by communist China 60 years ago. So very late on, on December the 4th, 2023, I published another column in Daily Caller titled "The Left's War on Elon Musk is Straight Out of CCP Playbook."
Mm.
So I wrote that column again to defend, support Elon Musk, who is a champion for freedom of speech.
Wow, that is quite the journey. And in particular, I don't think I've ever met someone who directly lived through the Cultural Revolution in China. I often have spoken with descendants or children of immigrants who did. So I just can't even imagine what that was like, but the unique perspective that it gives you, um, and in particular to then see parallels in modern American and Western society. So I think that's actually a great segue into my next question, which is, from either or all of these experiences, I'm sure you've taken away some big lessons on the importance of free speech, both to you personally in your life and to society at large. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on why it is important in those two dimensions.
Yeah, I want to say, to answer your question, let me share with you a very important lesson from China, and that will answer your question perfectly.
Yeah.
In 1957, Chinese dictator Chairman Mao launched so-called anti-rightist campaign in China to silence opposition. Anyone who spoke up against the radical communist agenda were labeled as rightist, and they sent them to concentration camp to endure hard labor in the countryside,
Mm.
and also for so-called re-education. Within 2 years, over 500,000 families, careers, intellectuals, career and family were destroyed. Some even
Wow.
died, There is that kind of hardship.
Yeah.
But after totally eliminating the opposition, Chairman Mao launched the disaster called Great Leap Forward movement, which forced peasants to give up their individual land to form so-called people's commune, basically learned from Russia, former
Hmm.
Soviet Union. To
Hmm.
show the loyalty to the Communist Party, the leaders of Communist Party exaggerate the grain production from around less than 1,000 pounds per acre to over 5,000 per acre. They exaggerate production. So
Wow.
what? You know what? They try to, because that they're tending, all the grains to the central government, left nothing for the peasants to eat. You know what? Because of lack of freedom of speech, no one was able to, tell the truth.
Mm.
No one was able to take the corrective action, not even say criticizing Chairman Mao, right?
Right.
So that great leap forward, starved over 30 million Chinese people to death.
Gee.
That's the biggest human cost, like
In history,
disaster in history,
by far, it must be
so by far.
horrifying.
So
Hmm.
from this lesson, I want to summarize three important, benefits of freedom of speech. Number one, it allows people to express their thoughts freely without fear of the punishment, right? So that's number one. Individual liberty, that's number one. Number two is promote balanced policy making because public policies are very complex. You need to have different viewpoints. If you only have one single viewpoint, it will create disaster like a great leap forward, right? So that's second. Third, most people don't know is really freedom of speech is our cornerstone of our democracy. If any country, if you observe any country in the world, like Nazi Germany, like communist China, communist like North Korea, Venezuela, if any country lose its freedom of speech, it will always become one party authoritarian regime. So
Yeah.
that are the three major points. Actually, I summarized it very nicely in the Orlando Sentinel. I wrote, silencing your political opponents will destroy the foundation of American democracy. Complex social issues such as income gap and racial tensions can only be solved through respectful and healthy debates among different viewpoints, not by unifying people's thoughts. Once different viewpoints are purged, authoritarian dictatorship will surely arrive.
Wow, what a powerful story. And I mean, certainly you've seen firsthand the impact of the absence of free speech. So I can really appreciate why you were galvanized once you came here to the freest society in the world to stand up and speak out against parallel trends happening in our culture. So thank you for that, and for your voice.
Okay, it is my pleasure.
So Shifting gears a little bit, since you have found your voice, and I love that you're even sharing some of your work that you've written in publications, newspapers, etc. I'm curious, especially I think you mentioned that that started in 2019 for you when you started really publicly speaking out. So, any lessons from your journey of being a public advocate for how to effectively organize and communicate your ideas to others?
Yeah, I think maybe I can share with you my like journey, fighting for equal education rights. Right. I think the first thing really matters is motivation.
Mm,
In as a survivor communist Chinese Cultural Revolution, I observed when Chairman Mao destroyed Chinese meritocracy during Cultural Revolution, China's higher education totally failed. Also, as somebody thrived in America, I survived in communist China, but thrived in America, achieved my American dream. I know the importance of equal opportunity, equal
mm,
rights. So that's the motivation, motivated me to fund the Asian American Coalition for Education
mm,
to start the fight. That's number
yeah.
one. Number two is courage. When we founded that organization, actually challenging affirmative action was viewed as political incorrect, right?
Yeah,
We suffered a
sure.
lot of like attack. Even some comedian, produced one episode at the Netflix, attacking me and my board director personally, right? We suffered
Wow.
this kind of political attack, but we never give up because
Mm,
we are side with, Americans, majority Americans, according to Pew Research Center, 73% Americans support our view, which
hmm.
means, no race should be, fact should be, considered during college admissions.
Right.
So that's second. Third is educate. We have to educate our
Mm,
fellow Asian Americans, also Americans in public in general. We need to let them know, how severe the anti-Asian discrimination was, and then mobilize them to join us. And also building alliances. Very importantly, in
mm,
2015, we united 64 Asian American organizations filed a civil complaint against Harvard University. That was in 2015.
okay.
7 years later, we expanded the alliances to over 360 organization nationwide when we
Wow.
filed an amicus brief in
Hmm.
support to the U.S. Supreme Court in support of the lawsuits against Harvard, right? So that's number four. Number five is really perseverance. That's very important. My colleague and I have been fighting for equal education rights for over 9 years. We never give up. No matter what kind of challenges, also because it was politically incorrect,
Hmm.
most foundations in America, they did not give us funding. Even almost a three-quarter of Americans support our view, but the
Right.
foundation, like Ford Foundations, Bill Gates Foundation, all the foundations,
Hmm.
all the like mainstream foundations, they never supported us, right? We have to raise money from grassroots. We have to continue fight. So there's five lessons in terms of organizing, speak out. I want to share with your audience.
Those are great lessons. Thank you from spoken from such great experience and just really inspiring. So, and you've walked the talk, and I think you are right to point out that sometimes the spotlight will be on you in not friendly ways when you do that, but particularly having the courage and the perseverance and the motivation, which I think underlies that perseverance for your values, as well as finding aligned allies and affinity networks, I think are all great tips. So um, why don't we do a little bit of a different creative exercise here of imagining what do you think is the primary number one initiative that we should be investing in to build a greater free speech culture in America today, assuming resources were no constraint?
If I have all the money at my disposal, I
Yeah.
would really enhance. religious education
Mm-hmm.
about the atrocity of communism and other, authoritarian, regimes. Why? Because it's not done enough. And because, for example, like the education about teaching children about the Chinese Cultural Revolution, actually,
Mm-hmm.
as I said, I wrote a book called, Critical Race Theory and War Culture, America's Dangerous Repeat of Chinese Cultural Revolution, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we, by teaching our children to learn what is mistake made by other nations, right? Our children will, improve their appreciation, know to learn to know, freedom of speech, our fun corner, stone of American democracy. Also, freedom of thought, basically also like fighting against the indoctrination is another cornerstone, of American democracy. I tell you something. a- Any country, if they have censorship, if they have indoctrination, that country will no longer become democracy.
Wow. Yes, that's education cannot be emphasized enough, and I really like how you might be the first person who's ever talked about specifically education of collectivist and statist ideologies and societies in history. I mean, certainly you speak from experience, but I always was struck how, as you noted, I mean, for ideologies and movements and regimes that perpetrated the by far greatest genocides and mass killings in human history, why it was always conspicuous to me that we didn't learn more about those. And especially now when kind of so-called critical theory dominates academia and education, both at the primary, secondary, and university levels, that they never turned that critical examination back onto collectivist societies and regimes. So, I just I couldn't agree more that is a particular part of history that isn't being taught, but that if it were, would certainly aid in this effort.
Thank you.
So, that's almost the end of our time. I always like to end by asking our guests what any words of advice or inspiration for just anybody out there who, they may not be ready to take to the barricades and be a leader of a movement, but just want to feel comfortable to find their voice, stand up and speak out for their values and hopefully free speech values. Um, any words of advice for how people can do that?
Yeah, basically, I want to, tell them, don't be afraid of speak out. American society need your voice, especially
Mm,
when it comes to viewpoints that are not be politically correct, or like comfortable to hear. So, a well-functioning society thrives on hearing both easily agreeable and challenging perspectives. For example, when some idea may sound morally appealing, say providing welfare to the poor, but they may not be as effective as advocating individuals to work and to learn how to stand on their feet, right? So you are on the right side of history, and your rights are guarded by the U.S. Constitution and relevant laws.
Wonderfully said. Exercise those rights, and that will defend them and advance them. Thank you for that. And that's all of our time. So as always, we will see everybody in 2 weeks. You can find us on most audio podcasts under Institute for Liberal Values Dissidents page, as well as on our website 1776forward.com or ilvalues.org. Thanks, Mike.
Okay, thank you.
Take
Yeah.
care.
Okay, take care. Bye bye.